Test, test, testing, testing. Test, test. Test, test. Test, test. Test, test. Test, 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 test. Like to speak to the board tonight?
Quickly say what happened. See what happened to the world, like in the 8 hours that I was asleep. Realize that there is a brand new AI model. Work in bed, like and get on top of something, and then literally just carry. Robots could simply say, "Please keep these two desktops available. You have the same connections available, services available. Just try to on every single thing I have."
Are you going to get a briefing, Jason, if they contacted you?
Have they contacted me about the MacBook Air? Yeah, I I'll just say that I know.
And I hope to get to meet Liz. They do sound like maybe something. A lot of Apple news this week. My email provider, I've been singing its praises for them. They're the leader. They say in email privacy. They contribute to, and so the forward with new internet standards and open source innovations that power many other email services. Fastmail lets you do it the way you want to do it, by the way. You can use your desktop client. It works with Apple Mail. You can use your Apple Mail on your iPhone if you want. But they also have great, one of the best webmail interfaces I've ever used. Frankly, it's all you need, probably. And they have iOS and Android apps that have, for me, completely replaced the built-in apps. Fastmail has so many nice features, like their quick settings, which lets you
Test 1 2 3. Test 3 4 5. Welcome to board meeting tonight. This is only a test, just a test. Test 1 2 3. Test 4 5 6. Test 7 8 9.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
That's funny.
Talk to these folks, ask them to sign up if they want public comments.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting tonight. We will begin, first of all, by excusing Nancy Kennedy. She is not feeling well tonight. She's sick, and so she will not be able to be with us this evening, but hopefully she'll be back next month. First of all, we'll have our reverence by Board Member Tiffany Summers, then our flag salute, Pledge of Allegiance by Superintendent Steve Carlson, and then our recognitions by Board Member Julie Taylor.
Our dear kind Father in heaven, Father, we are very grateful this day for the opportunity of being here. We're grateful for this great nation that we live in, and especially for this beautiful county that we live in. Father, we pray that thou would attend this meeting and that thou would please bless us and guide us as we make decisions, as we hear one another, as we try to do what is best for our students and for our teachers, and for all those who are working so hard in this district to help our children learn. Father, we pray for these things humbly and ask for these blessings in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Would you please rise and follow after me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so for our recognitions tonight, I didn't think we had any. Then a flurry of things happened yesterday and today, and I have lots. So one of the things that I think I sent out to the board members, so I'm going to highlight some of the things, because I don't think we hear from our middle grades a lot, you know? The high school, we recognize they've got lots of activities and lots of things going on, but sometimes we don't know what's going on with our middle grades. And so I reached out to all those principals, and I got a few things back. So I'm just going to read some of these highlights. Harris Intermediate, Laura Lee Hill, their theater drama teacher, they just put on a production of Aladdin the musical with their 7th graders and had a great success. Their counselors, Kim Miller and Karen Christensen, did a career fair day centering around student interests of those in the community, so they could look at career goals that they're doing. And their CTE teachers, Erica Bywater, Richard Miller, and Jackie Evans, received Finch robots, and they're teaching kids how to program and code in their school. So I thought that was pretty exciting. And they had a 7th grade dance, which I don't know about your 7th grade dances, but mine was like the boys were over here and the girls were over here, and you just kind of look at each other. But said they were doing line dances, and it was fun. They're better these days than we were. So that's Harris Intermediate. And then Bear River Middle School, they've been holding attendance parties for students who do not have any tardies. And they said their last one, they had 200 students attend their last no tardy party, which is which is good. I know that it's attendance, we want them to, if they're sick, stay home, but it's good to encourage them to be on time, and I thought that was good. They've started a principals committee where students could self-select to join, and that allows them to voice their opinions on school rules, procedures, and so forth, and they're also working with the PTSO. The high school, Bear River High School, put on a play, Oliver, and the main character was one of the Bear River Middle School students. So I thought that was exciting, and they've got lots of activities with that. And then I liked this one, their map assessment, their second map assessment, which is a growth measurement test. On their goal for TSSA and Trust Lab, they wanted 60% growth, and they had 71% in 8th grade and 66% in 9th grade. So they really did well on those goals. So that's at Bear River Middle School. At Box Elder Middle School, one of the things that they noted was they have a lot of freshman students, so the 9th grade students that are contributing on their varsity sports teams. So Ryan Jensen won a gold in first singles tennis at the tournament they went to, and he's just a 9th grader. And then Conley Evans was a freshman and won a state wrestling championship. And then they've just started softball, and they have Kaylee Hall's a starting center fielder as a freshman, and Kennedy Blackmere is in rotation as a pitcher. And let's see, she's a designated hitcher and has the top designated player, so she bats every game and has top batting average. And then there's others, Lucy Griffin, Izzy Mason, Kinsley Miller, Maddie Jepson, Kelsey Palmer, all had varsity time as freshmen. So that was exciting. And then when I saw that Conley Evans was state wrestling championship, I thought, oh, I wonder if there are others. And guess what? There are. So they're at Bear River High School girls, Rachel Epling and Eve Alsup were state wrestling champions this year in their weight classification. And Conley Evans, who I mentioned, Jackson Ricks and Brandon Murray were state wrestling champions for Box Elder High School in their weight classifications. And the Bear River girls and the Box Elder boys took second place overall at the state wrestling tournaments. So that was really well represented. And then I was following the Instagram page of Box Elder High School, and all the academic all-state were posted. So these are kids that have a 4.0 and contributed at the varsity level. They're seniors, they have to be seniors, but have 4.0 and contributed at varsity level, or have there's a scale like 3.9 in certain ACT or whatnot. But so then I looked up all the winter sports, and here's what we have for these. So Bear River had 2. Madeline Mickelson for girls wrestling was academic all-state, and Jared Jones for boys wrestling was academic all-state. For Box Elder, we had Elle Anderson for girls swimming, and for girls basketball, we had Ashlyn White, Camry Anderson, Madison Thurgood, and Olivia Godfrey, which I think are all soccer players that got it in the fall too. So that's a great group of people. Elizabeth Griesbach and Mary Taylor, Seneca Walker were all drill team, academic all-state. I hope I'm saying these names right, so if you know differently. Andrew Christensen, Brandon Murray, and Kaiden Cephalo were academic all-state for boys wrestling. Garrett Gobranson, Ian Kapner, and John Rupper were all-state for boys swimming. And Dax Sumko and Max Isaacson were academic all-state for boys basketball. So anyhow, those are all around. Oh, and one more. Lots of good things. Sorry, am I talking too fast? No. Okay.
Perfect.
Last thing is our own Alyssa Lyman was part of the FBLA service project, where they collected 700 pairs of shoes, for Souls to help needy and vulnerable people. That is a fantastic service project. And
it was so fun.
How did you collect the shoes?
So we turn it into a competition between all the different clubs at our school, so that way we could get not just FBLA involved. Like, we were the ones who hosted it, but we put it out to all the clubs saying, if you guys donate shoes, because it didn't have to be in pairs, like Souls for Souls you can donate either pairs or single shoes, and they'll tear them apart to reuse the material to make new shoes and send them to third world countries where they might not have the best shoes. So we got word out to all of our clubs being like, hey, we're going to start a competition. The club that donates the most shoes will get a special treat. And then we had a general overbid that if anyone wasn't part of a club but still wanted to donate, they could easily just throw it in there. And then by the end of 2 weeks, we had over 700 pairs.
That is so fantastic.
It was so fun.
Well, thank you for organizing that and being such a part of good example of service in our schools. So those are my recognitions. Lots of good stuff.
And Julie, I cut that article out. That was in the paper.
Yeah.
So you can give that to Alyssa. So
There you go. Put it on your fridge. Put
Yep,
it in your
put it on
scrapbook.
our fridge.
President, Mr.
Yes,
President, while
yes.
we're in recognitions, I see a group of young gentlemen at the back of the room. I wonder if, generally, we don't see young folks come, so are you here as a group? Okay.
So, Superintendent,
I didn't know that. I did
yeah.
not know that.
We are always looking for opportunities to reach goals with our youth, and one of them is to get more educated on a certain subject area. So I asked him if they'd be interested in coming to a board meeting. They says, yeah, it sounds boring. So we'll come. So anyway, they are here from Perry attending, and they do not have to stay for the whole meeting. And I think there's fudge sundaes afterwards, if Ben follows through, so.
Okay. Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Dave, for that. Appreciate that. Okay, now we need a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda.
I move we approve tonight's agenda.
Okay, Brian Smith has made the motion.
I'll
Do we have a
second.
second?
Sorry. I'll second.
Okay, Tiffany Summers made the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have our agenda for this evening. We'll now go into public comment, and there's two different areas of public comment tonight. First of all, it's just regular public comment that we usually have. And then the second part will be public comment just on school fees, because we're having that comment tonight as well. So if you're here just to comment on anything other than school fees, please do it first. School fees we'll do second, and we'll do it right after the regular public comment. Just a few items to be aware of before we do public comment. We ask that patrons state your name prior to making the comments. We ask that individual comments be limited to 3 minutes. If you're here in a group, then we ask that you have a spokesperson, and they can take 6 minutes if you're here as a group. Also, handouts may be distributed to the board members if you have them. And also be aware that the board will not take final action or have discussion on items presented during public comments unless the item is already on the meeting agenda. So we will not discuss it. We will not take final action unless it is on the agenda. And this is from the policy 1110 in our district. And comments on personnel issues will not be allowed during public comments. So no personnel issue comments will be accepted. Okay, so we will begin. First of all, we have Sarah LaSalle.
I think she's for fees.
Are you here for fees? Okay.
We'll let you.
Phil Harding, fees. Jericho, fees. Oh, so we don't have, do we have anyone here for regular public comment? Okay, so we'll just move on to our public comment for our school fees. And Sarah, we'll begin with you. If you just come out to the microphone, please, and we record this, so if you can talk right into the microphone, it picks it up really well. Thank you.
So I had emailed in, so I moved here with my family 2 years ago, so I didn't hear about the fees until, I said, about 3 weeks ago. So I've never actually heard of that, of being charged fees on top of the state, the fundraising, local taxes, and then having the fees on top of it. So what I was looking into, so I guess you can answer, but I was looking into the teacher salaries, so these are actually lower than the state that I came from. And we looked into what we were paying in the taxes. So first we looked into the salaries on the teachers was lower. Then we looked into I looked at the high school, the reading proficiency was 45%, the math proficiency was 28%. So I looked up where, this is for Bear River High School. So then I looked at the state which we came from, where it was 48% to 78% for math, reading and math. With all the houses that have been built here, and the taxes went up exponentially this year. I'm curious on where all this money is going. Hold on one second, I've never done this before. So we're collecting all this extra revenue. We've had all these houses built. The teachers don't make as much. The schools are older. My son missed a week of his first year of kindergarten because there is no air conditioning. When the school is called off, the work is sent with us, so we do it so they don't have to make up the snow days. But then we're also being charged for this. So I'm just curious, if you look, the schools that we came from were 9s and 10s, and I can look at the taxes. So the property taxes in Washington, there's about 21.6% from Washington that goes to the taxes for the schools, but in Box Elder, it's 70.6 of our property taxes are going towards the schools. So we pay 2.5 times more the amount of tax for school in Utah compared to Washington State. And there are no additional class fees. I've never heard of. Never heard of. I went to school in 4 different states. I've never heard of this before. So this is where we had a little bit of a question because it can end up being up to $3,000 or more a year if they're doing extracurriculars. I've just never seen something like that on top of the amount of taxes that everybody's paying to begin with. And the school where we did live, the school was new. The buses were new. It had AC, although it never gets above 70 degrees in Washington. So I just have a lot of questions on, since we're newer in this state, where is that going? And it's such an exorbitant amount of money. I see some of the moms that live around us having to go and take jobs so their kids can be in classes and do extracurriculars. So now the mom's out of the home as well. So this is where my questions lie. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, I appreciate that. And for everyone's information, we sometimes if we feel that there is a reply needed, that like our assistant superintendent over school fees may contact you through an email or something, or a superintendent, or they may, be contacting you as well. Okay?
And just to say, you're welcome to reach out and come and sit down. I think that would be a better venue to, so we explain. Well, I think I understand some of your questions, so I think we explained it that way. I don't. Well, certainly a budget, and I think we can explain it to you, and we could share it here, but it would, even our budget today, when we have a financial review, will help. So. Let's see, which one is that? Tell me who you are again.
Sarah.
Sarah, phone number, okay. I'll reach out to you, and then we can set up an appointment and come in, and I think we can explain everything.
Okay, thank you. Phil Harding.
So I'm Phil Harding from Garland. I've served as a community council member for both the middle school and the high school. I've had some dealings with the budgets before. I also am the father of 2 daughters who are in the school system, all the way from Garland Elementary to the high school. And my concern today is with the proposed fee schedule. I am not a rich man to throw that out there. And a lot of the people that I live with in our neighborhoods aren't rich people. Yet we're being asked to already pay somewhere between $130 and $1,800 to allow our kids to participate in extracurricular activities out of pocket. As Sarah had mentioned, we know several people in our area whose the mothers or the fathers are taking second jobs just so their kids can have opportunities to participate in extracurricular activities. With this proposed fee schedule, we've crunched the numbers, we've run it the best that we can, and I want to know why my property taxes are not sufficient to cover the education of my child. Why I am being asked to fork out even more money to have my child educated, to have them participate in school sports and activities. Our girls wrestle, and the coach does a really good job of taking that burden off because he set up a great fundraising program, which saves our butts. But at the same time, not every kid has that opportunity. And so we're being asked to pay more and more and more every single year for our kids to be educated, and yet they're failing in their tests, in their scores. Our schools are not top notch. Our schools are not where they should be. Where is that money going? And why are we not performing better for all of the sacrifices that we're being asked to offer? And that's the question that I'd like to propose to the school board. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. Jericho Witz, is that correct? Is that correct? Okay.
Hello, I'm Jericho Witz. I lived in this beautiful city of Brigham City since 2020. My daughter goes to Box Elder Middle School. It's the only, I'm sorry, not Box Elder Middle School, that's what she used to go to high school. It's the only high school that's pretty close. The other one's Bear River, I think. I work right now part-time as a substitute teacher, so I have an opportunity to actually see on how the children perform from various levels. And also I have the memories of which when I was educated when I was way younger. Now, one thing I do remember is that we didn't have so many computers or Chromebooks and stuff like that. I don't understand why it's so important for a first grader up to whenever. Middle school, I get it. You want to teach them to type, I understand that. And they're using Chromebooks, which is not the industry, what the industry uses. The industry uses Windows and Macintosh, mostly Windows, especially with the government and the military. So I understand that. A lot of these students I'm seeing their penmanship is atrocious. It could be the parents, it could be the teacher, but one thing I remember is with the pandemic, they are all being schooled at home, which was not necessary. People told us to follow the science. I would tell them that they ignored the science in every form or fashion. And that's a comment for another time. So where's the money going to? So the issue you're going to find is that a child's education is going to be based solely on the ability for their parents to pay. So that's going to sound like class warfare all of a sudden. When I was a young man, I didn't hear of this. Maybe in high school I have to pay for the wood that I used for a wood shop. I understand that. Pay for my daughter's dress because she's in choir. I understand that. I had to build a new machine, a computer system for my daughter because obviously my computer's too old. It didn't have the microcoding in the CPU that's necessary for her to do the photoshopping she needs. So if you're looking for money, I would suggest you want to look in places where you're not finding effective use. Stop using computers for the young kids. They need to learn how to read phonetically. They need to learn how to write correctly. Because I still have to write on the whiteboard and I have to be able to do it legibly for my ability for me to convey the material that's necessary. I'm running out of time. I don't want to belabor the point. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Jericho. Any other public comments that didn't sign up? Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. We will now go on to our action items. Our first action item for tonight is Keith Meekham, our Assistant Superintendent over Secondary, approval of school fees.
So first of all, what we sent out to the public. Sorry, thank you, Robert. What we sent out to the public on school fees. So there's a link here talking about the approved school fees that we've used for this year. You'll discover that most of the fees have not changed from last year's approved school fees, with the exception of just a couple of new clubs that are coming here. But one thing that has changed from when we sent out to parents was there's a new House Bill 415 that was paid by the state legislators. And and just to be short about what that means, beginning in the 2025-26 school year, all fees associated with like the class period, first through sixth hour, there would be no fee associated with that. The only fee that would be the extracurricular fees, things that took place, after school in the evenings. When we first sent this out, we were required and were told that we have to itemize every class. We haven't done that for 15 years, and we had an audit finding that said that we needed to itemize classes. Just so the public knows, the last 15 years plus, we just did a flat fee. And just so you also know, the flat fee has gone down at least 30 to 40% from a couple years ago. So our flat fees are trending down. But I guess what I'm asking the board potentially is, rather than itemize for this upcoming year, which I think is going to cause a burden on families depending on what class they take. If I take more elective courses, where this current 23-24 school year is, you just pay one and you take any class you want. Beginning the 25-26 year, there won't be any fees for the classes you take, other than just there's a couple of handful exceptions in the state legislative rules. So this is what we've been talking about, which is this itemized, which we sent out, and we had a hearing, in February. I kind of took it upon myself once I found out last Friday that this bill actually passed, is I kind of created a new bill. And what we did, and again, where it's yellow, I took last year's, our current schedule, and I just tweaked it a little bit, eliminating a grade class fee, increasing the student body fee for a total of $2 increase. We don't have to do that. If we just wanted to go back to, what it was in 23-24, we could do that. But I have gone in here. The driver's education fee that has not increased since 2008. One of the things that people need to know is when you do driver's ed, you have the classroom portion and the behind the wheel portion. But then when a kid wants to take the actual test, which is not part of the other two, we're just donating our time, our cars, because really it should be under the direction of the driver's, DLD, driver's license division. But what happens is our families generally don't want to go there, but they've already paid for a test there, but they want our high school teachers to do it. And so really the increase there would be the cost to have people take that test. Again, you don't have to do that, but that would be, where I oversee driver's ed. That is a cost that it does cost the district, and we're in the red in that particular area because of that extra test. But anyway, you'll discover that most of the fees are identical to last year. And again, if we wanted to go back to making it identical and just letting it be exactly like it is this year, that's fine. I also wanted to just point out, really on the extracurricular fees, there were just a couple of things. The chamber choir at our middle schools, the dresses now cost $55 to $60 for the competitive team. And so that's why they had asked up to $75. And I think it's also worth noting that these are maximum fees. Just because it's listed there doesn't mean that they're actually going to be charged that amount. But you have to have a maximum. You can't go over it. In our athletics, I think drill and cheer, they go to the max. Everybody else, they haven't got to the max at all, even though we have that listed. And we've had that for a couple of years now. You'll see that FBLA, they have, and if you look and hover into there, you can kind of see increased by $20 from last year due to competition fees increasing. FCCLA, Due to opportunities for state and national contests, the maximum fee will not apply to every participant, but just those that participate and qualify for these national events. So that's what that would be. The Journalism Club is brand new. So just a couple of little things. TSSA Robotics, again, what they wanted to put in is all the expenses if they actually did the world championships, the national championships. Most kids are not going to do that, but I was trying to be more transparent than, oh, and by the way, here's another. So you'll discover that very few fees increases from last year. So I guess really the decision is, do we go to a brand new system, itemize everything for 1 year, knowing that next year all the fees come off during the regular day? Or do we just kind of stick with what we did this year with a couple of exceptions? And then next year we'll change all of it to be in alignment with House Bill 415. So I'm open to both. I personally would prefer keeping it the same as a flat fee for 1 year. I think it'll be less stressful on our stakeholders, our parents, our kids, our office staff, our school counselors. The reimbursing money, asking for more money, I think is going to cause a lot of stress come August. And so if it was my recommendation, I would like to go with draft B here, which is basically what we did last year with just a couple of exceptions, but I'd be open to any feedback in that regard.
I have a question. So on the driver's ed, if people do it privately, not through
They
the
wouldn't
school,
pay for that extra money.
I'm just wondering, do we have any, I have no idea how much it is privately if we don't, to do
So,
like get a
What
driver.
happens is when a student goes in to take their driver's test, like their written test, they pay for 3 tests. Most kids, if they pass their first written test, they still have 2 tests, and that could be used for their driver's test, which then would be all part of that original fee.
Right. My question is if they don't do it through the school at all, like they're taking the driving from a private vendor.
A1 driving or something.
Oh, if they do that, it's $800.
So they're still getting a heck of a deal.
Oh, they're getting a heck of a
That's
deal.
what
and
I'm
people
saying.
don't want to, people don't want to do the private because it's 4 times what we charge. Thank you.
Any other questions, board?
Hey, President Hyde, can I just mention,
Yes.
just so that people understand, the reason we were looking at a new fee schedule is because state law requires us to itemize our fee schedule so that the students that are participating in the curricular courses are paying for the courses. Other students that are not participating in those curricular courses are not subsidizing students that are taking those more expensive classes. And so that was actually state law. We actually were audited, found for being non-compliant in that. And so that's why we were working on that diligently this year. However, with recognizing what Assistant Superintendent Meekum has mentioned, I'm in support of delaying that transition, even though that it may create another audit finding because we'll be in compliance in the following year.
Do I have a motion?
President Hyde,
Question? Do you have a question?
no, I will make a motion that we, as far as school fees this year, that we do a flat fee and that we follow the schedule that we are currently doing in the 2023-24 school year.
I'll second that.
Okay, Connie Archibald has made the motion, and
Is that saying these yellows are not going to be approved? Because if we go exactly 23-24, all of these would have to go back.
With those few exceptions. I'm sorry, thank you for that correction. With those few exceptions as noted in yellow.
okay, so Connie Archibald has made the motion, and Karen Cronin made the second. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now we go to our approval of amendment of school land trust for ACYI, and that is also Superintendent, Assistant
Yeah, I
Superintendent.
think you're going to
Meekum.
get real tired of listening to me tonight, and I apologize. So let me just make sure I've got the right talking. So each of our schools have school lands trust money that they use for, serving our students and helping them with academic needs. And there is a threshold in school lands trust which says you can't have a carryover of more than 10%. Well, ACYI has tried to hire some people and couldn't hire, so they had an excess. And so what you're going to discover is Mr. Rasmussen from ACYI, along with his school community council, they would like to make an amendment there, basically to spend $23,659 as part of technology-related things in terms of devices, computers, e-readers, flash drives, cables, monitors, stands, etc., as a what do you want to call it? As an amendment to what their current plan is. And this would put them into compliance. Their carryover will be less than 10%, and that would be a good thing. And plus, those things can then be used for kids.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Beacom?
I move that we approve the 23-24 School Land Trust Amendment from ECYI as recommended by Principal Randy Rasmussen.
I'll second that.
Who did a second? Julie, okay. Okay, Brian Smith has made the motion and Julie Taylor the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Hey, I've got another one.
Okay, one more.
So
Approval of new course.
we're really excited about this. Right now, our medical and anatomy physiology class, which is, I think it's called Weber State 1111 or something of that nature. Anyway, beginning next year, 25-26, they're going to have a prerequisite course to take that MAPS course. And this has actually come from AJ trying to get ahead of the game a little bit from Bear River High, but we've also communicated with Box Elder High. And so what we do is this next year, kids could take 1104, which is a concurrent enrollment class, for 3 credits. They've already signed up for the class, but now it's actually going to be a concurrent enrollment class. So it gives kid options this year to gain college credit. It just came out. We're sorry we missed the deadline in December, but Weber State has now said this is going to be a requirement in a year from now. But if we approve the class now, we can actually give kids choice to take concurrent enrollment or take it for just high school credit only. Well, concurrent enrollment and high school credit versus just high school credit. So it's a way to help our kids try to excel a little bit better and have an opportunity to take college classes there at Bear River High. So we're asking for approval of this new course, which is a course we already teach. It just hasn't been for concurrent enrollment. And now it allows kids to take that this year. And then in the next year, they have to have it. So I would come to you next year if you didn't approve it this year, but we'd like to get it approved this year so kids can have that opportunity.
Can I ask a question?
You bet.
So my son has taken this class, and it's a 3 trimester. So that's a lot of concurrent enrollment classes are 1 trimester, and this. So is this going to be a 1 trimester class instead of a 3 trimester
Correct.
class? Okay. Okay.
Is MAPS 3 trimesters?
Well,
That doesn't sound right. I mean,
well, there's a Weber State. Well, I don't know. My son just registered for it. I'd have to look
Gotcha.
up what his recourse was. But in my mind, because it can count for CTE credit, and it's I could text him right now. I don't
so
know.
anybody who
I thought it was a 3, at least 2, if not
I
3.
think this will be a 3 credit class that'll be taught for 1 trimester. They'll be able to earn
So
3
will it
college
be
credits.
okay? That
So
was my
they'll
question.
either take MAPS or they'll take this class this year. But in 25-26, they'll
It's
have
only
to
gonna
take this class in order to take the next advanced class.
Okay.
President, I make a motion that we approve the Weber State University HTHS 1104 course for both high schools for the 24-25 school year and beyond.
I'll second.
Okay, Karen Cronin has made the motion and Brian Smith the second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, now we
Thank
go to Mark Taylor, our Executive Director of Human Resources. And he is going to talk to us about our new negotiations team.
Good evening. All right, it's that time of year again where we are putting together our negotiations teams for the 24-25 school year. The negotiation teams will meet later in April and early May to work through that. And the proposed teams are as follows. To represent Box Elder School District, we have Keith Meekum, Heidi Jo West, David Roberts, Steve Carlson, Mark Taylor, Christy Kapner, and Karina Fife. For the BEEA, we have Steve Littlefield, Joette Craig, Mark Holland, Robin Bailey, Kelly Rose, Natasha Morgan, and Curtis Benjamin from Uniserve. Then for the BESPA, Melissa Lemon, David Cook, Yolanda Stevens, Leanne Nelson, Rhonda Pacheco, Damian Portillo, Jan Christensen, Thomas Razor, with Kalia Patterson and Natalie Patterson from the USEA, as well as Mike Evans as the USEA president. For your understanding, the BEA representatives represent all levels of our certificated staff, so elementary, mid, and high school. And our BESPA team represents, all of our education support staff, custodians, food services, transportation, so on and so forth, technology. So, are there any questions?
Mark, would you just, I think it's clear to most of us, but I'll let you tell us what the acronyms,
absolutely.
BEA and then BESPA stand for. Because BESPA's a mouthful, but I think it'll help a little bit.
It is. So BEEA is the Box Elder Educators Association. So that represents our certificated staff, our teachers, our licensed employees who have professional teaching licenses. So that represents that group. The Box Elder Education Support Professionals Association is BESPA. And so that's all of our support professionals that are on those front lines day to day, ensuring that our schools can operate and function on a day-to-day basis. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark? Okay, I just need a motion.
President, I'll make a motion. Make a motion this evening that we approve the negotiation team members as noted.
I'll second.
Okay, Carney Archibald has made the motion, and Danielle Wright has made the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now we go to our approval of vendor for surveys and focus groups. That's Dave Roberts, our business administrator.
Okay, so over the last month, we put out a request for proposal to engage in a company to help us with our surveys and focus groups in regards to a possible bond in the future. At that, we put that out on a public site for companies to bid on. We had 3 companies that bid, and the recommendation I have is that I recommend that we engage Y2 Analytics as they were the lowest cost vendor and also the vendor that received the highest points. The also positive side to that is they're located in Utah. The other 2 companies were located outside of Utah, so we would support a vendor, a company in Utah with that proposal. And that's also within our policy too, that we try to stay local as far as procuring services. So that's my recommendation. I think they're ready to engage as soon as we're willing to engage them. So any questions about the process? We had Sherry Harper and Jeremy Young help with that. We had the cost proposals come in a separate envelope, so they were not included in the proposal, and they were not opened until after we scored the proposals. And so the price was not even a consideration as we went over the proposals. It was then put into consideration after we had scored the companies, and so that's how we came across the highest score with the lowest cost proposal. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that the board accept the proposal from Y2 Analytics to provide online surveys and focus groups on behalf of Box Elder School District in preparation of a new bond for facility needs.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Danielle Wright has made the motion and Connie Archibald the second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, we will now go on to our information items. Our first one is by Heidi Jo West, our Assistant Superintendent over elementary, and that is School Land Trust and TSSA reports.
Close this out. So this is just the time of year when we go through and we review their final reports. All of the schools go in and report on whether or not they met their goal or they didn't meet their goal. It's not actually a requirement of trust lands for them to receive funding by meeting their goal, but of course, every school seeks to do that. They report to their school community councils on what their goal was and how close they've come to it, and then readjust goals for next year. We also had them add in a TSSA mid-year report because they were not quite at the final year, but the reports come from last year. So they're reporting now on what the plan was last year and whether or not they met those goals, because it gives them time for state assessments to come out and be cleaned up before they have to finalize those reports.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi Jo. Do we have any questions for Heidi Jo?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to highlight something. I think it was Willard Elementary, their kindergartens, that they met 100% of all of their students met the grade level assessment. That's awesome.
That is awesome. Very good. Okay. Thank you, Heidi Jo. Appreciate that. Okay, now our legislative update. Superintendent Steve Carlson.
We've had a couple of special bills we've been following, and Keith wanted to talk about one of those tonight. He mentioned it earlier, but the school fees bill, and I don't know if that came across, but for the first time ever, the state of Utah is putting forward some money, and we have to have those fees curricular only, not extracurricular, and that was mentioned tonight, but not extracurricular, will be paid by a one-time fund to help us in another year. After that, they have to come from somewhere. And so the state of Utah as a whole has always had curricular fees across the state. And they also have extracurricular fees. There's programs in place for students who don't have, who qualify, that they can have those fees waived. And so that's just something that has happened in Utah for a long time. There was a bill last year that they were going to commit $45 million a year to pay for curricular fees. That bill failed. They brought it back this year, and they had some one-time money. And so it went, just like I said, to that one time. And they've given us 3 years to get it there. Now, the question is, how do we pay for those fees? Because these are things that right now the schools are using to pay for paper, for books, for assemblies, for just a variety of things. And so somewhere, that money's got to come from somewhere. And so it's either going to come from teachers' salaries, it's going to come from increased property taxes, and that's basically our two options. Mr. Roberts, would you agree that's basically the two options that we have? And so therefore that has to come from somewhere. And so that's been a huge bill we've been following. Another bill that we've been following is, and it worked out well for us, but it just tells you how the legislature goes. In the Canyon School District, which some of my grandchildren actually attend, the Canyon School District has almost all of their high schools are on a semester class. They're A/B, 8-period days, and they had one high school, and I think it's okay to say it because it's been publicly said, Brighton High School's on a trimester, like Box Elder School District. Well, for some reason, a schedule didn't work out or something happened, and this is very much, and I might be oversimplifying and talking about in a public meeting, but I just want to explain how legislation sometimes work. There was a parent that was upset about some schedule that didn't work out because Brighton was on a different schedule than the other schools in Canyon School District. This person either knew or went to a senator from the Jordan School District. And that Jordan School District senator ran a bill. And that was to force all school districts across the state to go on to a semester schedule. Well, as I said, Box Elder School District's on a trimester. It seems, just so you know, a trimester we have in our secondary classes, we have 6 periods a day, and each secondary teacher gets a prep period. And if you do the math, 1/6, I believe, don't hold my feet to the fire, but as I remember, it was like 17%, somewhere in that range. Keith? 16.6, thank you.
I will round up.
Okay,
17.
thank you. And so what that means is, while a teacher's on prep period, we have 16% of our staff during that period that is not teaching kids, and so we have to staff accordingly. If you go to an 8-period day, and that means that you'd have a schedule on one day, Monday, and then Tuesday you'd have another you'd have 4 periods, 4 and 4. Well, if a teacher has a prep period every day, that's a much easier math. That's 1/4, so that's 25% of that day goes into a prep period. So therefore, it seems like that's not that big of a deal, but 16.6 to 25% of your staff preparing does make a difference in staffing. And what that means is we have to hire more teachers or increase class size sizably, and we already have fairly high class sizes. So therefore, we went, Keith was very active, wrote emails to both of our Senator Sandel, and our Representative Peterson, and I think they were instrumental. They both talked to me and some of the board members when we went there on our day on the Hill for the for the USBA day, and it just showed, I think, good legislative action, being that it got thrown out there, they listened to us, they shut it down. Another bill that was really concerning for us was there had been a research project commissioned by the Utah State Board of Education and the legislature, and it was on necessarily existing small schools. Right now, there's a fund in the state for necessarily existing small schools, and that's a mouthful. We call them our NES schools. And right now, we have 3 of those schools in our school district. That's Snowville, that's Park Valley, and it's Grouse Creek. And in order to have necessarily existing small schools, what that means is they're so far away, they need to exist so that we don't have to have kids riding buses for 2 to 2.5 hours one way. And there was this project, research project, whatever you want to call it, and it was done by BESD. And what they found is that if you're in a district of a certain size, like our district, because we had Class C district, is that correct, Dave? 3, not C, 3, that you had to, basically we were going to lose $200,000 or $300,000 of the 1.1 or 2 million that we're getting right now in NES money?
Just over 1 million.
Just over 1.
Yep.
So 1 something. We were going to lose $200,000 or $300,000 of that money, and there were districts in the state, because their class, the smaller ones, which way does it go? If you're smaller, you're
small. The bigger
2.
the number, the smaller your
Okay.
district, and the
So
smaller the number, the bigger
I get
the
that
district.
backwards, so apologize. So anyway, there was going to be winners and losers. And so once again, we went to work and talked to our legislators. We actually, there was a meeting that Mr. Roberts and I went to at Park Valley Elementary. There was probably 25 parents there that came. They put together a nice video that showed, what Western schools, we call them our Western schools, is like, and the number of miles they travel and all that. And they sent the video to Senator Sandel. Well, actually, I think Dave actually dropped it off to one of the interns for Senator Sandel and Tom Peterson, just to explain that. And long story short, which it's already been a long story, ended up being, because of pressure, there was no action taken. So next year, I'm afraid it might come about again. And so those are just two bills that, we would have lost money to try to run schools. And just for those in the audience who may or may not know, Grouse Creek, I believe, as of right now, has 5. Does that sound right, Heidi Jo? Park Valley has like 28, and then Snowville's like 30-ish. And so those schools are very unique. They do cost the district extra money to run if we, in fact, did not have this NEST money. And so as with the NEST money, to educate a student in our Western schools probably is very similar per head as it is right here in Brigham City. And so that necessary existing small school money really helps us out a lot. And I've been in 3 districts, this is my 3rd district, and each one of my districts had necessarily existing small schools. And so that money really is the lifeblood to really help some of those districts out. And so I just wanted to point out some of those. As I told the board earlier, the legislative session got over with 10 days ago. And there was over 100 bills, probably 150, that are public education related. And right now, the Utah State Board of Education staff, Mr. Roberts used to work for the Utah State Board of Education. Once the legislature's over, they have to take and interpret all of that unbelievable information, and most of it's money. And we, every spring, we being the Superintendent's Association and it's called the UASBO. I'm not even sure what does that stand for, Dave? Utah Association of School Business Officials. Okay. I think Utah business officials was already taken, so they had to come up with some weird acronym. Anyway, we meet and come together for 2 days, and it takes them 2 days to explain to us what all of this means and the amount of money that it costs to do all that. And so that's something that I think I'll be able to report. We do have a meeting tomorrow night that some of our board members are going to be able to attend with it's the Utah School Boards Association regional meetings. So we'll be attending that meeting tomorrow night, and they're going to be able to probably give us a little bit more information on some of these bills. So I think with that, unless you have a question, I would say that Tiffany went, I think, to every Friday session. Just an FYI, there's a committee called the Joint Legislative Committee. It's made up of, I believe, 15, 16, 17 superintendents and always one more school board member. So they're the the ones who run the education in the state of Utah. And probably there's 35 voting members, probably another 100 and 150 people are in that meeting. And we go every Friday and sit and talk about bills. We have legislators come to us either in person or they come on a WebEx and explain their bill to us, try to get our support. And we always take an action item on each bill and say we're in support. And if we support, that's basically what we do. If we are opposed, we usually oppose, this is why. And many times, especially early in the session, if we oppose a bill and say why, a lot of times a legislator will come in and tweak that bill and make it so that we can stomach it a little bit better. And most of the time, they're bills that put a lot of burden on teachers. Most of the time, they're bills that are sometimes, we call them unfunded mandates. So they tell us that we need to do something, but they don't give us money to do it, and therefore we have to find that money to do it. And that's part of what tonight's meeting's been about. And so, it's I've heard people talk about legislation, and they talk a lot about likening legislation to like making sausage. It's messy and it's ugly, but at the end it all comes out, and we all like to eat sausage, at least those of us who do. And I heard that from a long time legislator named Mel Brown, who was once upon a time Speaker of the House. Anyway, if there's any questions about other bills, I will give you more information. We'll get more tomorrow night. And so any questions?
That's good, thank you. Okay, thank you, Superintendent. I appreciate that. Let's go on to our monthly financial report. Dave Roberts, our business administrator.
So I hate to disappoint the youth that came to listen to me speak, but really there's nothing really exciting about.
You ought to stay and listen to Mr. Roberts.
Yeah, that was good timing, guys. Perfect timing. But really, nothing really exciting out of the monthly financial. We're right on par with where we should be. Our revenues are a little ahead of what we had budgeted for, so that's always a positive. And our expenses are really close in line with where we should be at this time of year. There's a couple items I did highlight. One was the repair budget under operations and maintenance, and in talking to the facilities, it's just the cost of products and labor that is hurting us. But again, a lot of those projects are done now. That does include the sewer cleanup at Bear River Middle School. So there are some extenuating circumstances, emergencies and stuff like that that have added to that. But it's not an amount that I think we should be concerned about. And then the other one is purchase services under transportation. And the reason they had reached that amount already was because of continuing education and training that they are required to do to retain their CDLs and their passenger endorsements. And of course, those costs have gone up. And so it's just the nature in which we're in right now with inflation and the cost of receiving services to be able to stay compliant with regulations and laws that is costing us a little bit more money. But overall, it looks like we're doing really well, and I hope we continue this trend because it looks like we're doing pretty good so far. So any questions on any of the finance report?
Okay, thank you, Dave.
If I could, President, I'd like to just make mention of a couple of things for the board's sake and even for the audience. Our budget is roughly 140 million plus a little bit, a lot of money. And our budget follows very much the pattern of the state of Utah in that about 80% of it goes towards teacher salaries, our BESD employee salaries, and their benefits. So of that $140 million, almost, I guess 100, and do the math, Keith, quick, 100, and Julie's also a math person. Come on, do it in your head. 100, at least 100 million, wouldn't you say? There's 80% of that goes towards that. And then the other 40 million goes towards maintenance, gasoline, garbage bags, just anything you can think of. So we're pretty much standard with the state of Utah, and that's in my other districts. I started in a district that had 1,000 kids. That was 22 years ago and 9 months, but I don't know who's counting. And that $12 million, 82% of it was for teacher salaries and benefits. I went to another school district, Carbon School District, had 3,500 kids. Our budget was about $30 million. About 80% of that budget went to teacher salaries and benefits. And then the other, it's all amazing to me in my years how similar we were, just based on the simple fact that it's just, as it goes up, the number of kids, it's actually a little easier to do things. So I just wanted to share that as we went forward, and I think we've been fortunate in the fact that we are able to, as of just late, we actually are able to, our teacher salaries, especially from the middle portion of a teacher's, if a teacher's about 10, 12, 15 years in, we're very similar with Cache Valley and Logan, school districts that are over the hill one direction. They're very similar to Ogden and Weber to the just south of us. And then as you get towards the end, we're very comparable with those salary schedules in those other school districts. And it hasn't always been that way. Now, the state did do some, and just for people in the audience and those of you who don't remember, there was a taxing equalization that was done 3-4 years ago, and we actually got our teachers association. We had one of our math teachers at the high school helped, and we were able to, luckily that equalization came about because before that, we were drastically lower in salaries here in Box Elder County. And so I think it's just, a good thing to talk about. Every month we see Mr. Roberts' budget, but to understand that there's that much money in it, and there's a lot of things that go into it. A bus right now, a new bus costs
$48,000, and it was $110
Just a short
3
time
years ago.
Yeah. And, to put air conditioning in Box Elder High School. Corey's not here, but roughly it's close to $1 million by Bear River High School or Box Elder High School by itself. I'm just using that as an example, and the fact that we have right now, tell me, we have 4 schools with air conditioning? Old Spike,
We have had some of the systems that were ordered delivered right as the snow hit that are
Yeah.
they're waiting to be installed. But
So
I
we got the
believe
2 intermediate
that
schools.
We will have it in all of the secondary schools by the time the school year starts as well.
don't make that promise in public.
I retract that
Okay.
statement.
Okay, so
gonna try.
we have ordered the parts, and just so you know, that's from the federal money that came from the government during the pandemic, and we've ordered HVAC. Part of that is to help purify the air, so that's some of the things. And I probably talked too much, but I thought it'd be nice to clarify some things. Brian?
Superintendent, it might be helpful also to note that all of the budget, these reports that we go over, they're all available to the public. Anybody can go in, look at those and see. And they're all audited. We're audited every year to make sure they're accurate. So.
We were audited by a company called Squire and Company, and they come in every year and go through and make sure we meet all the federal guidelines, the state guidelines, our local policies. Keith, do you think would it take long to show to find that on our website? Could you help?
So our
Okay.
district website is Box Elder School District at BESD.net. And due to the size of my screen, school board doesn't show up here on my laptop, but under school board. When we get into the meeting, I don't know if this is, my question I have is this posted after the meeting?
We have to have it approved by the next meeting, so it's always the past. So next month it'll be approved.
So, anyway, inside the board meeting recordings, we have every recording and, anyway.
All of the documents from the board meetings. So it's, we don't try to make it hard to find. It's just there's so much information that sometimes it's hard to find, so.
Superintendent, just to support what you're saying, so if I just look at instruction only, which includes all our teachers, out of our almost $50 million budget, 94 million of that goes directly to teachers. 83 million of that 94 is for salary and benefits. The other is for purchase services, supply textbooks, equipment, and other. Those are that's where almost 100 million of our $150 million budget goes to is just teachers. The other budget items are for the other departments, student services, district administration. So if you want to know what that, we budgeted 1.2 million for that, for our administrators. And then business and support, operations and maintenance, transportation, and community services. Those are the other main categories, department levels, that we budget money for.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A lot of good information there. Thank you. Okay, do we have any board committee reports this past month? Okay, so Alyssa Lyman, who is our student board member, she will give us her report.
Okay, with Bear River High School, they just had prom, I think last week is what it sounded like. They are getting ready for their Spirit Bowl in a few weeks. They just had a senior exclusive ice skating night where it was more like a senior celebration, and then they said they have a lot more senior celebrations coming up since we have 3 months till graduation. So excited. And then they also have their spring sports that are just starting. I don't know if Bear River just went down to St. George, but Box Elder did. I was guessing they did. I heard all of them did really good down there. Had better weather than up here, but it's fun. And then with Box Elder, their spring sports have just started. All of them have been coming out really strong, so that's really exciting. As of right now, our student gov is trying to plan a competition between grades with like dress up days, like tardy attendance competitions and stuff. Junior prom is this upcoming Saturday. Excited for that. FFA Nationals was a few weeks ago. They just usually go to the same place. I think they go to Indiana. And then both Bear River and Box Elder just had their FBLA state past few days, and then a few other clubs have theirs coming up in a few weeks.
Okay. Thank you, Alyssa. I appreciate you doing that. You give us a lot of good, worthwhile information. Thank you. Okay, now we'll go on to our policy review. We have policies for review with no changes, and then we have those on our first reading. So,
Can I
any
ask a
discussion on any of
question
those
on the
policies?
policies with no changes?
No changes? Okay.
I just have a question on, we received, at least I did, an email, a couple weeks ago about a teacher who had went on a field trip and there was some busing issues and they didn't get to spend as much time as they had thought. Is that, hopefully that's a rarity, but I was just bringing it up to make sure that that had risen up and we're trying to make sure that those, there's very few field trips anymore, so
Yeah.
we've got to make sure that they are well.
That had to do, I think, a little bit with Friday, and Friday being a shorter day, we actually talked about that in our principals meeting. Jason Sparks, our transportation director, came in. So there was, I'm not gonna lie, there was an issue, and I think that we've got that taken care of, yes. He spoke with we talked about it and tried to make sure that that didn't happen again, and it was just one of those 2 or 3, comedy of errors type
I
things.
can maybe just make a comment. With the secondary starting at 7:30 and the elementary starting at 9, and then Friday being early out, which means 1:13 and 2:20. Anyway, sometimes we don't have enough buses when we do double runs. And so all of a sudden I get to jump on my bus, do a travel, but need that same bus back to get kids home. And it is one of our issues of having double runs. I agree with you.
And springtime's usually when we do more of
and
those.
Fridays are probably the
Fridays
worst day for the other
We've learned, I
extracurriculars.
think we're gonna do
I
better.
just want to make sure that it
We're
was
aware of that,
bubbled up and that,
and it is
hopefully
kind
they-
of problematic because we want kids to be able to have that experience,
Yeah.
when they do have them.
with that, I will make a motion that we pass the policy reviews with no changes.
I'll second.
Okay, Karen Cronin has made the motion and Brian Smith the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we'll go on to those policies for our first reading.
Can I ask some questions on policies with second?
Absolutely, you bet.
So, as I was reading the one for, I think it's the graduation requirements? Yeah.
4060.
Where it talks about if a student does the reduced credit diploma or early graduation diploma, isn't that what we call it? I guess, help me understand why they would need to have a diploma from Sunrise rather than their school.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So before the pandemic, that's the way we've always done it. The only place to get a 24 credit diploma was at the time, Dale Young Community High, but at Sunrise High School. Neither high school ever offered a 24 credit diploma. They offered the 30 credit diploma. During the pandemic, the board made the decision to allow, just due to the complexities of mask requirements, COVID, having to stay out of school for a certain amount of time, just to create some flexibility, it allowed students to be able to graduate at both high schools for that. Feedback from secondary administrators, secondary counselors, it is problematic when two students the same age are in the same school and one's required to get 30 and the other one's required to get 24. I know that's only 6 credits, but it's 12 classes. And so as we've talked with Jerry Jackman at Sunrise, AJ and Jamie at Bear River and Box Elder, the feeling was that it felt a little inequitable to have kids be able to have and enjoy everything and do it in the same school, in the same age. We obviously would finish out the year the way we are, but we felt like the reason why that was put in place has come and gone, and the need to just say, If you're gonna do a 24 credit diploma, which is fine, you can transfer to Sunrise. Both high schools will continue to educate those kids, give them all the opportunities, so they wouldn't have to do it till the very end. But the idea of my buddy next door to me has 12 less classes than I do and get to enjoy all the benefits of the graduation and et cetera when they're done, maybe at the end of their junior year, didn't feel right. And it's caused a lot of problems. A lot of kids are just taking more and more home release, and they're taking the 24 credits. Anyway, we felt like the reason why it was put in has gone, and to go back to the way we had it pre-pandemic would be what our motion would be.
So do you have an idea about how many students that is a year that do this, that early graduate?
That exact number, but I can get that. I don't know what that exact number is, but it is problematic.
I'm just wondering, are we talking
What's happening is kids
6
are
or
hearing,
40?
oh, I can graduate with 24. And so they graduate and they miss out on concurrent enrollment opportunities, Bridgerland opportunities, and they're taking home release, and they're really watering down their senior year or even junior year. We want kids to stay in the game, but having the 24 option inside the two high schools just doesn't feel right at this point. But I will find out those numbers for you, Karen, and let you know.
And then on policy 4178, internet use, let me get there. It says that I think if I read it right, the community council is supposed to provide education and awareness. And I'm just wondering, how does the community council usually do that?
It's always been written into school community councils. I wish Nancy was here because she's the buff. But the school community councils always just have to talk about as part of their plan, how will they provide that? Some of them do it through responsible.
Computer use.
Do they just
There's
ask the
one that the
administrators
state
to
has
do
on-
it?
There's one that the state has on contract. It used to be NetSmart, and then they moved to a different one, and then the state has now said you can choose whatever you want. And sometimes the community councils elect to just do it in the computer lab and make sure that it's taught there. It's just so that the parents have an input on how it will be addressed.
They just basically go in for an hour, 45 minutes, watch a presentation on responsible computer use.
Yes,
Yeah.
but community councils can vote to have that instruction done by their computer lab specialist as well.
I was going to
if
say,
they
when I was
choose.
on the community council, that was always like at the beginning of the year, the agenda item, you had to decide how that was going to be approached. That was the job of the community council. We didn't actually teach it. But we got to
No, I was
decide.
just wondering why it was put there rather than just in an administrator decision, but you said that so the community council parents had some say. Okay,
So the
that was
parents
the
can have
question.
input on it.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my question, is how
Very
are
good.
they doing that? But I guess it's just so that they have some say.
Yep, had input.
Okay, those were my questions.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move we pass policies on first reading.
Okay, Julie Taylor has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Connie Archibald, the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes, and we will send those along to our second reading next month. Okay.
Just a
Yes.
point of information, we are done with first readings for all the new policies, so next month it'll just be second readings. And then we'll wait for the legislature and the Utah school boards to send forward the new ones, and we'll start over again.
That's how it usually works. Huh? Okay, do we have a motion and a second for our consent items?
I'll make a motion that we approve this evening the consent items as listed.
I'll second.
Okay, Connie Archibald has made the motion and Brian Smith the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, do we have any suggestions for future board meetings?
I will tell you that Robert and David Blake, Robert Gordon, our gentleman behind the screen, and David Blake, I think they were ready this week or this month, but we're going to bump them back next month to a discussion about AI. Brian had asked us, artificial intelligence, so we'll have that presentation on what Box Elder School District, how they want to proceed with thoughts, ideas. We've been taking the lead from some of our bigger colleagues, Jordan, for instance, I think is one of the leading districts in the state with their incredible budget. They've really put forward a nice program. So we will present that next month.
Okay, sounds good.
Weren't we gonna have the group that presented down at the?
Yes, that one also, I talked to them, and there was one of the three that couldn't come, so that's that. Thank you. They're planning on that too, and that's just for information's sake. At the Utah School Board Association convention in January, our nursing department, along with Gary Allen, former Box Elder Assistant Superintendent over secondary schools, and Bonnie Young, former nursing health services supervisors. That I always wondered, they're both former because they retired. They put a great program into place, and it dealt a lot with what we're doing for behavior, for teen suicide, all those things. So they made a really nice presentation. And when we, just for the folks out in the audience, the board knows this, when we go to that convention, there are, I would guess, 6-7 breakouts per hour. And there's so many breakout sessions that our board members weren't able to even attend the one that we had. So we wanted to present that, at least a portion of it, here in the board meeting. So we will try to have that if everybody's schedule works out next month.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, our upcoming events, we have a number there, our high school graduations. Make sure you get those on your calendar. They're always fun. And then our spring regional meeting is tomorrow night. Okay.
6 o'clock. And there's Professional Development Day. Thanks, Danielle.
That's right.
Heidi Jo has worked the last 2 years, and we have a short day, but we have some great professional development. Our teachers are able to go and attend. Many of the teachers actually put on the professional development, and we also have some professionals from the outside come in. I don't think we have our attorney this year, do we? Last year we had our attorney, and we have a variety of people like that to come in, and it's really a spectacular event, and it's at Box Elder High School this year. Heidi Jo, what time does it start?
It starts at 8:30 in the auditorium with our keynote speaker, and then our breakout sessions begin at 10:15, and then lunch.
Yeah. And this is a
Just let me pull it up.
day
Let me
off,
make sure I
day
don't
off
have
of
to
school
retract any statements.
for students. Yeah.
What is the date again, Heidi?
Friday.
It's this Friday.
This Friday?
Day after tomorrow. So,
Oh.
yeah.
The keynote is Jason Hewlett. He'll be talking about our vision. So 8:30 is the keynote, 10:15 breakout 1 to 11:05, lunch 11:05 to 12, breakout 2, 12 to 12:50, and then we'll wrap up with a thank you all for being amazing discussion from Superintendent Carlson and be finished by 1:30.
Dave had a comment.
Yeah, it didn't get on the agenda, but I just wanted to make you guys aware that the May board meeting, I will not be able to be here, but I'll have somebody represent. And it's a very small agenda for the finance, business services side of things. June is a different story, but I will be here for June.
Okay. Okay.
May's when we meet. Where are we at this year?
ACYI.
ACYI this year?
Right.
Where we at? Harrison.
Mark's in charge of that, but
He's
I'll
coming.
make sure.
You remember,
he
okay.
knows, yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion.
Yes. I think we have to close it after.
Okay.
I was just gonna say to go into closed session if you're ready for that.
We are.
Could I
To
just
discuss
make,
collective bargaining.
okay, could I make just one comment prior to that? As I mentioned earlier, I've been a superintendent, this is my 23rd year, and something unusual happened tonight, and I don't know why yet, but my oldest son is at the back of the room. He's a principal at Fox Hills Elementary in Granite School District, and he texted me and said, hey, I'm just going to come. No emergency. I've just had nothing to do, so I'm coming to support you. And this is the first time one of my children have been in one of my board meetings. So, thanks, Kip. Appreciate you being here, you knucklehead. So, thank you.
That's great. Okay, that is great. So, Karen Cronin has made the motion that we go into our closed session. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Brian Smith the second, and then we'll do a roll call vote, starting with Karen.
Tiffany Summers, yes.
Julie Taylor, yes.
Wade Hyde, yes.
Connie Archibald, yes.
Danielle Wright, yes.
Brian Smith, yes.
Okay, so that is approved, and so we will now go into our closed session, and then we'll close our regular board meeting after we're done with our closed session.
So we can just go in that other room, so.
Okay.
So Robert will be able to clean up and everything. Okay.
Okay. And thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate that. Thank you.
My boys are going in the same group. Aaron. Nathan's taken one. Anyhow,
That's so
they
fun.
convinced Aaron to take